Welcome to the True Crime Cafe. I'm Angie.
I'm Becky, and you won't believe the case I have for you today.
What you got for me?
So today's case takes place in the city of Chandler, North Carolina. So all of our listeners have pretty much figured out by now that we both live in South Carolina. And not too long ago, I covered multiple cases in one episode about animal crime fighters. And because Big Brother's always watching, my social media has blown up with tales of heroic pets.
Okay.
This story from People magazine stood out. And as soon as I read it, I was like, I got to tell Angie. So
I like stories like that.
yes, you're going to have feelings though. It's, I'm sorry.
Well, it's only fair. I made you have feelings last week.
You did. I still got a few feelings left over.
My bad.
Yeah. This is something that I'm calling What the Duck.
All right.
So, first, like any good author, I'm going to set the stage with the setting. And Chandler has about 26,000 people.
Okay, so smallish.
Small town. It's 10 times bigger than my small town, but it's still a small town.
Okay.
Male to female, relatively equal. So this tells me immediately, like, I could probably not live in Chandler because since moving to where I live now, I've become super accustomed to small town life. Like, I've just fully embraced it.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, we don't have any big box stores, but seriously, you can get anything you need. All the basics are here in town, and it's all mom and pop shops, which I love.
Yes.
In case you're wondering, the city of Chandler is only half as big as your city where you live. So the national median of violent crimes in Chandler falls at about 3.2 per 1,000 people. So like out of 1,000 people, only like 3.2 are a victim of a violent crime.
Okay.
The North Carolina state total is just over that at about 4.26 per 1,000. And that's just over the national average of 4 per 1,000. To put this in other terms, you have a 1 in 235 chance of being a victim of a violent crime in North Carolina and a 1 in 448 chance of being a victim in the city of Chandler.
Okay.
In 2020, when this starts, North Carolina was ranked number 23 in a USA Today article, ranking all 50 states from most to least dangerous.
Okay.
South Carolina was number 9.
Not surprising.
Right. And we've talked about that before with the trafficking and the, beach activity and the coast, everything. Geography does play a lot into that, I think.
Yes.
So Chandler is only a few miles from Asheville. And if you're familiar with that area, you know that's right in the heart of the Blue Ridge Mountains.
Yeah.
It's not far from the Blue Ridge Parkway, which runs 469 miles through Virginia and North Carolina. And it connects the Shenandoah National Park to the Great Smoky Mountains National Park.
Okay.
So Asheville is also a stone's throw from the Biltmore Estate, which is pretty famous for being the biggest home in the country. I had friends back in West Virginia who made a big deal of going to the Biltmore Estate every year. It was an annual pilgrimage to the Biltmore Estate. I've never been. It's just not my thing.
I've never done it.
Yeah.
And I grew up in North Carolina. Granted, I grew up on the East Coast of North Carolina and Asheville and everything, Biltmore State and Western North Carolina.
We would vacation on the eastern end because of the beaches. We vacationed one time in Boone, North Carolina. I'm not sure how far that is from Asheville, but the mountains are really not my thing after growing up in the mountains my whole life.
Yeah.
The one resident of Chandler was Nellie Sullivan, and she lived in a rented trailer home. She was in her 90s, and every interview I read, her neighbors described her as a total sweetheart.
Okay.
Unfortunately, she went missing some years ago. Her granddaughter, Angela Wamsley, and Angela's husband, Mark Allen Burns, were supposed to be taking care of her. Nobody knew Nellie was missing until a nonviolent crime allegedly involving Mark led to the start of an investigation into a missing person. And the FBI informed local sheriff's office's criminal investigation unit. When authorities started looking into Nellie's disappearance, this case exploded. So you know how at the end of a fireworks show, it looks like they just set whatever's left in the box, they set it on fire, and it's like boom, 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 boom for like 2 minutes straight. As I read through this, like that's what I'm picturing in my mind, because it's like unlawful this, boom, misdemeanor that, boom. And I'll get to all the list of charges, but you are going to want to settle in because this is like a wild ride.
Okay.
The best way to take you through this case is with a timeline, which is what I normally do, but this is like the most specific timeline I've ever done.
Okay.
So we are going to go back to December 2020, which is the month when I moved into my new house. Okay. And I had no idea this was going on like 2 hours away. So in an article on the website for the ABC affiliate WLOS out of Asheville, North Carolina, it stated that authorities were asking for the public's help in locating a man wanted for questioning. According to a release from the Buncombe County Sheriff's Office, Mark was currently wanted for questioning by the Major Case Division. Officials said that he had several open warrants and was possibly in the company of Angela, who was also wanted for questioning. And they didn't say if they were wanted for questioning like on separate charges, the same thing, or they just said they were both wanted for questioning. Okay. So the release went on to describe the vehicle they might be driving, the vehicle's license plate number, their physical descriptions, and their last known address, which was 11 Beady Eyed Lane in Chandler. Okay. And that's where they had been living with Nellie, Angela's grandmother. And Beady Eyed Lane sounds like something out of a cozy mystery book. Mm-hmm. And it makes me kind of sad that there's nothing cozy mystery about this case at all.
Right?
Yeah. That was on December 12th. 4 days later, December 16th, Mark and Angela were taken into custody on open warrants with the assistance of the U.S. Marshals. And, if the U.S. Marshals are involved, there's nothing good going to come of it. Usually. So, and, like the vets were already involved, but like when they said U.S. Marshals, I was like, oh, okay, that's where we're going. Mm-hmm. In addition to the outstanding warrant, Angela was charged with 1 count of misdemeanor animal cruelty, unlawfully reconnecting utility, 2 counts of abandonment of an animal, possession of a Schedule III controlled substance, possession of drug paraphernalia, and possession of synthetic cannabinoid.
Really?
Yes. And she was held in the Buncombe County Detention Facility on a $17,000 bond.
That's a lot of dollars.
In addition to his outstanding warrants, Mark was also charged with 2 counts of misdemeanor animal cruelty, unlawfully reconnecting utility, 2 counts of abandonment of an animal, possession of a Schedule III controlled substance, possession of drug paraphernalia, possession of a synthetic cannabinoid, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, and concealing a death. Yeah. So while Angela is in a detention facility, Mark was taken to the hospital as a precaution for health reasons. None of my research said what those health reasons were, and I really didn't dig deep to find out. Okay. Because I know we try to be victim focused. This is going to sound more like it's focused on the criminals, but it's only because, number one, there wasn't much information about the victim. Mm-hmm. And number two, all of this information leads up to the final information. So she's in jail, Mark's in the hospital, and the State Bureau of Investigation, which is kind of like a state level FBI or detective agency, they were also assisting in the ongoing investigation. Okay. So authorities immediately began interviewing Angela and Mark because, that's what they do. And it soon became apparent that there's a missing person involved. Because if Nellie's supposed to be living with them, where's Nellie? Yeah. So the next day, December 17th, authorities spent the entire day searching for human remains buried on a property off Shumont Road on Black Mountain. Okay. This area is about 38 miles from the residence on Beady Eyed Lane. And according to Google Maps, it's about a 75-minute drive. Now, a People magazine article from this year suggested that Mark directed the authorities to this location when it happened. And it was confirmed in an article on the Chicago ABC affiliate's website, which quoted Sergeant Walker with the Major Case Unit as saying that Mark sent them on a wild goose chase, which resulted in them digging for several days in a site where Mark knew that Nellie was not located. Okay. In a different article on the same ABC News site, it mentioned specifically that Mark once had access to that parcel of land. Apparently, he and his sister inherited it when their father passed away. And at this point, like, if I'm an investigator, I'm going to be like, well, how did Mark's dad die? Mm-hmm. Where's his sister? Is his sister safe? Yada, yada, yada. It's like, I'm going to start looking at everybody around him. Like, are y'all okay? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Back to the case. Authorities had not gone public with who they were looking for, but from what I could understand, North Carolina is one of those no body, no crime states. Mm-hmm. So if Mark and Angela were guilty of doing something to Nellie, the authorities had to find Nellie. Okay. Like before they could charge her.
Well, yeah, that makes sense. But I know like a lot of states, they allow no bodies now.
Because I've seen it on like different we could just call them murder shows, like Dayline, 48 Hours, the whole rigmarole. And you'll occasionally hear the narrator say, and it was so unusual that they were able to convict her without the body, or convict him, and, the victim's body was never found. And so Captain John Ledford, who was the head of the sheriff's office's criminal investigations unit, was quoted as saying, "We've identified that there's a potential death involved in this. We're attempting to see if we can locate that body. It's highly unlikely this death occurred recently, but rather from several years past." By December 18th, the next day after all the digging, and 2 days after Angela and Mark's arrest, the ongoing investigation led to detectives seizing documents and a firearm as a result of 2 executed search warrants. Now, I did not see anything that said where these search warrants were executed. I'm guessing it was on the residence on Beady Eyed Lane.
Or the property.
Yeah, that sounded like it was just a big empty parcel of land.
Yeah, but you can still dig a hole and hide a body.
This is true. Or a firearm, and it could have been on their vehicle. Or, wherever else they might have been living. Who knows?
Yeah.
A few days later, December 23rd, and the Buncombe County Sheriff's Office releases a warrant which states that Mark was charged with felony concealing the death of Nellie Sullivan by failing to report her death and burying her remains in a shallow grave. At this time, nobody except for Angela and Mark allegedly knew the cause of death. No one could say how long she had been missing, and Nellie's remains, nobody could find them. Okay. Nellie's neighbor, Belinda Moody, told ABC affiliate KLOS's Channel 13 News on the same day, December 23rd, that investigators had been looking for Nellie for several years, and Belinda confirmed that up to her disappearance, Nellie had been living with Angela and Mark.
Okay.
Belinda described her as a sweet little old lady, and Belinda said that Nellie would give you the clothes off her back if she could. Nellie made Belinda's daughter a Halloween cape out of a shower curtain she had one time, and it sounded like she could just go on and on with all the ways that Nellie improved the lives of her neighbors around her. And Belinda said that Mark and Angela would go out all hours of the night and leave their granny there by herself with no food. So sometimes Belinda and her family would take Nellie some food. And Belinda said that after a couple of months, she got real sick. Nellie went in the hospital. From there, she went into a nursing home. Angela and Mark brought Nellie back. And then after that, Belinda says nobody saw Nellie again. Belinda said she always wondered what happened to Nellie, and it bothered her. She said they'd been looking for her for over a year, and she just wanted to know what happened to her friend. A different neighbor who knew Nellie told Channel 13 News that Angela and Mark left in the middle of the night about 5 years after Nellie disappeared. So she'd been missing for some time. This was still in 2020.
Okay.
Jumping ahead to 2021, new year, new you, right? No. Angela was charged with assault with a deadly weapon on a detention officer at the jail where she was being held.
Okay.
Now let's go to March of 2021. Upon further investigation, Buncombe County Sheriff's Office brought additional charges against Angela and Mark as major case detectives discovered that the couple was using prescriptions written to Nellie to fraudulently obtain Nellie's medications. And it sounds like this had been going on since the time Nellie went missing.
Now, I got a question.
Okay.
Because, my doctor won't refill my medication unless he's seen me within a year prior to me. So how did this go on for so long?
I have no idea. But it's the same for me. I have to check in with my doctor in person once a year. So my old doctor in West Virginia, it was like that there too. It's like that here, but it was like that there. And one time I tried to get out of it by saying, I am on a book deadline. And they were like, we don't care. We want you healthy enough to write your book. Get in here.
Yeah. Yeah. And most insurance companies require that, including Medicare, which I would assume that due to her age, Nellie was on.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm just overthinking it.
I don't know. There's more to come, unfortunately. So the new charges included 4 counts of obtaining a controlled substance by fraud or forgery, 4 counts of trafficking heroin or opium by possession, 4 counts of trafficking heroin or opium by transport, felony conspiracy possession, and felony conspiracy transport. And their bond increased by $50,000 each as a result of these charges. At this point, March 2021, Angela is being held at the Buncombe County Detention Center under an $82,000 secured bond, and Mark was being held at the same facility under a $152,000 secured bond. Now we're going to fast forward to 2022, mid-April.
Okay.
Just 4 months ago from when we're recording this episode. The new residents of 11B Beady Eyed Lane, same home where Angela and Mark lived with Nellie when they were charged in mid-December 2020 with concealing Nellie's death. They had quite an eventful day because their pet duck got out. I know we both know what it's like to have a pet escape and run the neighborhood.
Yes.
Yeah, right? Like my husband's dog's a runner, and it was worse where we used to live because she would run the mountain and she would come home covered in deer poop or whatever poop. She likes to roll in poop. That's just her thing. She's weird, little weirdo. I mean, here, not so much. Here, she pretty much just, we tell her, come back. We have a treat for her, and she comes right back. And I know that you've got a cat who's an escape artist.
Yes. She used to be, in her defense, though, she used to be an outdoor cat. Like she was, she was in the last litter that one of the feral cats in the neighborhood had where we used to live. And we were feeding her from the time she was tiny.
Yeah.
And when we bought our house and we moved, we made the decision that we were going to bring her with us because we didn't feel like she could survive on her own because she didn't know how to hunt and stuff like that.
Yeah. Didn't you guys like get all the feral cats fixed and everything?
Yeah. Originally, when we moved, she was going to be an outdoor cat, but we had to keep her inside. They recommend for a couple of weeks so the cat can get used to its new surroundings and stuff. And she just decided that she's going to be an indoor cat. But every once in a while, she escapes. The last time she escaped, she was gone for 10 days. We knew where she was.
Yeah.
She was under our neighbor's house, and we could go over there, and she would let us pet her and stuff, but she wouldn't come out from under the house.
No. She was always destined to be an indoor cat because I remember you posted on Facebook in your rental, like she walked in the house and you're like,
she walked right on up in there like she was paying the rent.
Yep. So when their pet duck escaped, it went right underneath their trailer. And there's not a lot of room between the trailer and the ground. There's like a crawl space from my experience. If there's a lot of room, it's not a lot. So as they were trying to get their duck to come out, they found a container.
I'm just trying to picture them trying to get their duck to come out. Like, how do you get a duck to come out?
Right. I know that like when my husband's dog escapes, we're out there. Sometimes I take the whole box of treats and it's Greenies. Hey, Greenies, if you're listening, we love you. And so we just shake the box and we're like, Gracie, come get some Greenies. And she's like, oh, you said the G word. And she runs right back over and I throw the treat in the house. She runs after it. I slam the door, But I don't know how you get a duck out from, like, do ducks come when called?
I don't know.
Like, I know my groomer has pet chickens.
Like, now I want to know this.
But, yeah.
If anybody out there knows this,
let us know.
Had a pet duck.
Do you have a pet dog? Yeah.
Let us know.
Do you have to like get a little duck call and keep it with you, like a dog whistle?
Like, I mean, I legit want to know.
Yeah, I would just be throwing treats.
Yeah, but what kind of treats do you give a duck?
I have no idea.
That's what I'm saying. It's going to bug me now.
We're so far off topic.
Okay, back to the trying to get the pet duck out from underneath the trailer.
What kind of treat do pet duck eat? Oh, you can give them pasta.
Cooked,
like as long as it's whole wheat pasta.
Cooked or raw?
Cooked. You can give them oats, whole grain sugar-free cereals are okay in moderation. You can give them grains, alfalfa, broccoli, quinoa, cucumbers, green beans. Nice.
All righty, now we know.
So they're out there, maybe like a can of green beans or something, trying to get their duck, and they discover a suspicious item and they call the authorities. And when investigators came out, they found the container that the renters found, and unfortunately it held Nellie's remains. So Belinda, who still lives there, said she just wants everything confirmed and that if it is Nellie, that Nellie can be put to rest. And Belinda has nothing good to say about Angela and Mark. Sergeant Walker was quoted as saying, if I could give that duck a medal, I would. And that quote was like in all the articles I read. That was pretty much became its tagline. He said that years of search warrants and state and federal assistance went nowhere. One of the articles I read, it used the phrase, duck ends wild goose chase to uncover missing person remains. Clever play on words. Authorities have enlisted the help of a forensic anthropologist to determine the cause of death and other details. They do believe that Nellie was murdered elsewhere and brought to the trailer and that it had been several years. Sergeant Walker confirmed that after murdering Nellie, Angela and Mark continued receiving her retirement and Social Security benefits and refilling her prescriptions. He also said he thought nothing could support surprise him anymore, but this case was very surprising. He was shocked by the disregard for human life of a 92-year-old woman suffering from health issues. He said instead of receiving the care she needed from those who were supposed to love her the most, she received the exact opposite in the worst possible way. Unfortunately, the investigation is still underway, so the official cause of death hasn't been released by the medical examiner.
Okay. Are they going to be releasing it? Like,
I assume so, because wouldn't they have to during a trial? It seems like all of this will come out when things go to trial.
Yeah, it's a good point.
I am looking forward to updating this case after the trial is done, but like I was so obsessed with like the pet duck, and like Sergeant Walker, I too was surprised by the maliciousness of Mark and Angela.
Yeah, definitely. Like, how do you do?
It was her own grandmother.
I mean, how do you do that? I don't know. I'm sorry. I have lots of feelings about people who target elderly.
And then they had animal cruelty charges brought against them on different cases. I don't know the details of those. I didn't look it up.
Yeah.
Hopefully Nellie gets the justice that she deserves.
Let's hope so. Do they have any idea when the trial will be starting?
No. Right. The last article I had found was dated in May.
Okay.
And it just confirmed that the cause of death hasn't been released yet. So I do have a Google alert for any new information that comes up.
Cool. I'm interested to see how it plays out once they actually go to court.
Unless they just plead guilty.
Yeah, I mean, that they can do too, but I don't know. I have a lot of feelings. I'm curious to see if they'll actually go to trial or if they will plead out.
Yes.
But usually when they plead out, it's like, to a lesser charge.
Yeah. There is no perfect solution. The perfect solution would be if they had not allegedly killed Angela's grandmother, and if Nellie would have just been able to live out the rest of her life and died of natural causes.
Yes.
Yeah, so
the only problem, like, I love that we do a wide variety of cases, some old, some newer, but the only problem with doing the newer ones is they really don't have a resolution yet.
I know.
I don't understand anybody who can look at a 90-something-year-old person and decide that they're going to take their life.
Yeah.
You know, like, what?
Who gives them the right to make that decision?
Yeah, like, never mind all the other charges, which I know are serious, including the animal cruelty.
Yeah.
But like I said, who looks at a 90-year-old and it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna kill her, you know?
Yeah.
And I have feelings about the friend who thought it was odd that Nellie disappeared, but never reported it to anybody.
Agreed.
I'm sorry, Becky, but if as my friend, if you just all of a sudden disappeared, I wouldn't wait to inform the authorities. I'd be like, yo, she's all of a sudden dropped off face of the earth. Her husband did it.
Well, as someone who works in social media, if I go dark on social media, something's wrong.
Yeah.
Because I'm always around. Like, my mom doesn't even call or text me. She just messages me on Facebook.
Yeah.
I can count the times on one hand that she has called me this year.
I'm just saying,
she even uses Messenger to call me. She won't even call me on the phone.
If I don't hear from you, or like we work together, so if I don't talk to you at work or whatever, I'm gonna be like,
we've messaged each other and it's like, hey, you've been really quiet. Is everything okay? Like, I haven't heard from you in like 6 hours. What's up?
Right. But you know what I'm saying? Like, if you all of a sudden just disappeared, I'm not going to wait. Like, I'm going to be like, yo, like, she's always online. This is the last confirmed communication with her. You know, that was a very interesting story that left me with all kinds of feelings and left me with no resolution.
Yep. Now we both have feelings.
Yeah. I don't like it when you make me have feelings, Becky.
You can make me have feelings next week.
I probably will.
Stay caffeinated.
And join us next time for another cup of crime.